Greetings programs, welcome back to the Game Grid. You're back with Gaming Magic Mark. It's Baldur's Gate 3, and in this video I want to tell you a little bit about a more advanced game feature that you've been using all the time. Maybe you haven't fully understood it. I want to try and give you an understanding of that. It's called reactions, and let's do that now. And unfortunately, Halsin is going to be my guinea pig here. We're going to attack Halsin. That's what Layla is doing. She's just scored a main hand attack on Halsin. She's, easily managed to hit him because he's not expecting it, right? He's just sitting there. He's nice guy that he is, and he's waiting for her to say something. She just pulled out her sword, smashed him over the head. Okay, Luck of the Far Realms is a reaction. Can you see that there? That's what that is. Okay, and what it uses is a replenishable resource called a reaction. Reactions occur and can occur once per turn when they use this reaction replenishable resource. There are other situations where you can have an event happen either on your turn or on an enemy's turn, and it can trigger or create an event which needs to be reacted to. And what I want to do is to just talk about that, but also to explain it so that you will have full control over it when a situation like that occurs. Because sometimes you might have noticed, if you're fairly new to the game, or even if you've been playing it for some time, you might have noticed that sometimes something happens and you lose a spell slot, or you lose one of your replenishable resources on the toolbar, and you wondered why it happened. And that's because the system is automatically using it when an event occurs that can be reacted to. And if you don't control these reactions, then the system, is going to do what it needs to do. If you have control over them, it will make gameplay much more fun and interesting for you, and you'll have much more control, of course. So in this situation, I elect to use Luck of the Far Realms or not. A situation where I do not want it to react in this case is maybe because I'm expecting to use this single reaction that I can have on my turn for something else. Maybe I'm expecting to do something else that needs that single reaction that I get per turn. Now notice that a reaction can occur, so use a replenishable resource. You get one on other characters' turns, like enemies and so forth. So if someone hits you when it's not your turn, that can cause you to react. That's another reaction that uses that replenishable resource, potentially. Okay, so let's go ahead and smash Halsin with that critical hit. Now I get an event that has occurred, and that is landing a critical hit. Layla of the Glade has 3 separate things that can occur as a reaction on a critical hit. Now they use different replenishable resources. You can see that none of them have that little pink star, and that is a reaction replenishable resource. None of these need that. They need other things. In the case of paralyzing critical, I can do paralyzing critical, but I can only do it once per long rest. So if I use it now, I'm going to have to long rest before I can use it again. So effectively it's a one-time thing per long rest. Whereas Divine Smite on a critical hit gives me 2 opportunities to use them, neither of which uses the reaction replenishable resource. They use something else. This one uses a level 3 spell slot, which in this case can use the Warlock one, and in this Divine Smite on a critical hit, it can use the level 1 spell slot, of which I have, I think, a Paladin one. So I can choose which of these 3 reaction type responses are going to be the one that happens reacting to the event. I can't use all 3. I must select one of them, or I can choose not to react. And that's cool too. I might not want to use a spell slot. I might not want to use paralyzing critical, because maybe I want to save it up for later on in the combat or whatever. But if I choose to use it now, that's going to effectively mean that I can't paralyzing critical if I scored a critical again before I have another long rest. Okay. If I chose to use Divine Smite on a critical hit and I use the level 3 version of that, it's going to take the spell slot from the Warlock, level 3, which means I'll have 1 less spell slot that's available to me. Again, on a rest situation, but this obviously warlock spell slots, they come back on a short rest. You can see this one would only occur now, and then that spell slot level 1 would be gone from my paladin spell slots, because it needs to recharge on a once per long rest. So you're going to get lots of different situations or events that occur that result in reactionable responses, and as long as you set up the user interface to ask you on those when those events happen, then you're in full control. Okay, and I found when I got involved with Baldur's Gate 3, after reactions had been added in early access, I hadn't played it for some time, and I was wondering why there were these spell slots, which were, during combat, I thought I had 3 spell slots, now I've only got 2. Why is that? Something must have happened, and I kind of looked back on the log, and just have a look back and see, oh, okay, something happened, and it used that, it must have used that for that ability. Okay. So you can be in full control of this, and it's very cool. And in this case, I'm just going to paralyzing critical Halsin. There we go. And I hope he forgives me. I'm sure he will. All right, let's go on to take a look at the spell book, because characters' spell books is where we can find the reactions. And reactions, I really think that's something that you need to have full control of, because it's going to make your gameplay much more satisfying if you're in control of it, you feel like you're in control of it, and so forth. Now have a look at this. We just used Luck of the Far Realms, and we've just used Paralyzing Critical, that Layla. Now notice how they both say must take a long rest. Why? Because they were only available during that period, and that's now the condition that means that I can use them again. Okay. Obviously, other situations like Hellish Rebuke or Divine Smite on a critical hit, those would still be available, assuming I still had further spell slots to use for those. Okay. You can see also, for example, Karlach here, Reckless Attack has no reaction replenishable resource. There's no pink star. There's also no spell slots that are going to be involved. So nothing really. It's just any time I've used Reckless Attack, I can gain advantage on attack rolls until the end of the turn. But enemies also have advantage against you. So what it's actually going to do is every time I attack an enemy, and maybe if I miss, it's going to say, well, do you want to try a Reckless Attack? Because that might mean you actually hit. And so it can do that every time. But of course, if a condition exists where I don't have any more reckless attacks for whatever reason, then it's not going to offer me that option. Okay, very cool. So there's lots of abilities that characters have. There's lots of items that might result in you being able to use a reaction, such as Shield Blow. So Shadowheart has a particular, quite a rare shield, and that gives Shield Blow as a reaction. And I think Halsin has Sentinel. That's a reaction that comes from a feat. And so that's cool as well. A feat might give you the ability, for example, to react to an event. Very, very nice. And so what I want to do is just tell you about the user interface in that regard when it comes to reactions. So find it under Spellbook, go to Reactions tab, and they're all listed there. And it's good to do that after you level up, or after you add new items to a character, or when you respec and you get new abilities. Come and check your reactions for each of your characters, because certain reactions may have been added and you didn't realize it. So you always want to be in control of that. Now, just very briefly, reactions, we have the ability to turn the reaction on or off. That's the left-hand side tick box. The right-hand side tick box, which follows ask, is another, conditional, if you like. And so on the left-hand side, it's do you want to be able to react to an event happening with one of these abilities? If you turn it off, for example, maybe I don't ever want to paralyze, anyone, and so I turn it off. Okay, so that will then just not ask me like it did previously, which is what I showed you. But if assuming an ability is on and the event can, trigger it to happen, do you want it to automatically happen and to take the replenishable resource along with it? In which case, it's going to happen, you may not even notice it, and the replenishable resource will be gone. For some folks, that's going to be a problem. For some, That's cool. And many times it's, where there's not a replenishable resource, you don't want to have to be asked every time, you just wanted to do it. So, you could tick the ask off, and off is the default. But if you tick everything on, that's a great way of learning your character, learning how they can respond to things, seeing how new items or abilities result in reactions. So I would turn it on for all of your characters, at least until you feel like you're in control, and you can turn off the asking situation. Um, and just to finish up then, remember that reactions are powerful responses to events happening. Make sure that you come in and check what reactions you have available based on abilities or items that you've equipped. Feel like you're in full control. There are situations where you don't want to use that spell slot because you're saving it for an important spell later on in the combat. Well, you don't want to, it to be automatically used, so make sure you've set it to ask you. And there we go. Thanks so much for watching. I hope that made a lot of sense, and good luck and happy playing. Enjoy. See you next time.